I'm a huge Jimi Hendrix fan, and I think many of you are as well. I had the good fortune to see Jimmy twice, once in 1968 and once in 1970. But when I saw him in 68, he was at the height of his powers. And I just remember as a young kid, I just started playing guitar, a couple of years before, and I was in Chicago, and I looked up, and there he is with that white Strat, just doing what he did, that really incredible, amazing, unbelievably magical stuff. So I wanted to kind of address what I call the kind of the little wing style of Hendrix and licks, and I wanted to give you an example of something, kind of blues you can use kind of stuff. And I'm going to do it in the key of E. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some licks that really work. They're kind of chord-melody type licks, and they work in E, A, B in this particular context. But you can also use them, and I'll show you how, in any key. And it's kind of a cool, it's a really nice tool to have in your quiver. So what I do is I start out with hitting a low E string, kind of let it ring out. And what I'm working on here is I'm working on this high, if you visualize the high E chord, the low one. So if you go all the way up to the octave, and if you were bar chording all the way up, you'd end up here, right? 12 frets up. So your E looks like this, and I'm going to play the partial version because that's what we're going to be using on this lesson. So we're really emphasizing the bottom, or I should say the highest four strings, the E, the B, the G, and the D, at least in the beginning lick we are. And so the way, I'm going to spell out the lick for you and do it slowly, and then we'll get it up to speed. So the first part goes like this. So what I'm doing there is I'm grabbing the octave B and E on the 12th fret with my first finger, and I'm doing a hammer-on with my third finger on the B string, which would be on the 14th fret, and it sounds like this. And then I'm coming off it. So that's the opening move. Okay? Fair enough? Pretty simple. Now the next move, you have to shift a little bit, and you go to like what I call like a D, sort of a D form. You know how you make a D chord here? And just move that all the way up to the 12th fret on the B string with your second finger. Drop your first finger to the 11th fret on the G string. And now I'd like you to hammer on the 13th fret of the G string with your third finger. And it looks like this. So we've done that when we've done D stuff, like D, hammer on. It's exactly that same move, but you're all the way up here. So the second move in this is, again, a hammer on the G string this time, and coming off. So let's put those two together, shall we, and see what that sounds like. Pretty cool. You've heard that before. Now what you'll notice about this lick is sometimes it sounds country, sometimes it sounds Hendrix R&B. Depends on the context it's used in. So you got your low E, and then all the way up. Now the next one is, so now you're on the 9th fret with your first finger barring the G and the B string. And you're going to go ahead and use your third finger on the 11th fret of the G string. Again, same hammer on, same movement. So you'll notice that all these moves are exactly the same motion. The only thing that changes is the fingering. So once again, that last move is just a straight on. You're on the 9th fret of the G and the B. And then you're going up to the 11th fret of the G string. So let's put those three together and see what that sounds like. So we get the low E. What I like about this lick and all the ones I'm about to show you is they kind of string together. And I think often on guitar, especially with lead or what I call chordal melodies or interior melodies, which I really like, by the way, sometimes it's like, well, how does it all work together? It's all connected, is what I'm trying to say. And you'll see, by the time we finish this lesson, you'll understand how it's all connected. So you got your E again, first three moves. And then the next move is, okay, again, the same hammer-on move, but you're just coming up one string from the B and the G string. Now you're going to be on the D, or sorry, the G and the B string, the G and the D string. So it's, and then this new one is, okay? So let's slow that one down. So you're on the D string, right? On the 9th fret to the 11th fret of the D string, and then you're on the 9th fret of the G string, which is an E note. So just like this one. And then let's go ahead and go to the next one. Same one. Same exact lick, but on the A string. So you got the A 9 to 11, and then the D string, first finger, stays on the 9. And then rest on the E chord. You know that chord. That version of an E chord. So you're really going from this E to this E. And it sounds like this. Let's do it in slow motion together, okay? I'm hitting that low E string to kind of give us a little sonic bass. And then if you want, you can just stop there, because that is an E chord. You don't have to go to here. You can let that be your E chord. Okay, so now I'm going to do it just a little bit faster, and you can hear what it sounds like in context. I am going to add one more cool little thing, though. And I like to do this. I'm going to start out by taking the 2nd fret, first finger A string, and sliding it up to the octave E, so it goes. I think that's a cool little move. And the reason I do that is because it sets up the lick. So check it out. So you notice at the end I did a, that's optional. You can just go, you can do it straight. Now if you want to get rhythmic with it, which is what I'm going to eventually do, make us a little bit of a song out of it. So lots of ways you can do that. You can do a lot of things with it. I kind of sometimes I'll do a pull up. That's a little more advanced. It's what I call a rake. But that has to do with hammer-ons and pull-offs. A pull-off would be and all I'm doing is picking up my high E and my B string. And sometimes I use that if I want to make a lick sound faster than it is. But it's all part of this little family of licks. Very Hendrix sounding, isn't it? And one more thing I want to add, without getting too complicated, I think this chord sounds kind of cool in this movement. It's like an E chord, right? And I take my pinky and I move it up to the 4th fret of the D string, and it sounds like this. I don't know, I think somehow that for this majestic Hendrix kind of stuff, that's a great chord. Just adding an F sharp to your E chord. So you can just hit a regular E2. But if you add that F sharp in there with your pinky, it's a bit of a stretch. But it sounds cool, I think. So now let's do everything I've shown you so far, and I'll do it really slowly, and then I'll bring it up to speed, okay? So I'm just kind of doing a nice, kind of easy rhythm. I think it's important if you have a rhythmic bass to sort of not just out there in the weeds, right? You notice that I'm just with my third finger, I'm coming down on the A string on the 11th fret. Again, very Hendrix. And you can use these notes, very hypnotic kind of stuff. So that's the groove. So that's basically a way to be playing in the key of E, using this chord as your basic, a little bit Hendrix, and then sliding up on your A string again. That just gives us some drama. So you with me so far? Are we good? Okay, you ready to go to the next chord? Why don't we go to the 4 chord and see what that sounds like. Now what we're going to find out right now is that exactly the same move I just taught you, that form in E, that same shape, coloring those, spelling out those same licks. Well, guess what? It also works in A. And you have the advantage of hitting an open A chord. The reason I chose to do this in E is because I wanted to be able to utilize open strings. Just makes it a lot cooler, especially on acoustic guitar. I've taught this on electric as well, and that's great. But on acoustic, it's kind of unexpected. I like it a lot. So once we've gone through that whole pattern in the key of E, now we'll do the same thing, and we'll go to A. So you notice I came down on that low A string as my root note. I call it a target note when we hit a note and we let it ring. And then what I do is I take the same shape I just did up here, and I move to the 5th fret, which is we're used to hitting our bar A chord. So we're working off the same shape, but in an A. Okay. We're not even going to worry about the fat strings, the low strings. We're just going to really concentrate on the highest 4 strings. Now we do hit that A as a lead note, and this is what this one's going to look like. Okay, it's the same lick. It has a slightly different sound. I'm just landing on a straight A there, where up here I was. And then A. Still has a kind of similar vibe. And so you're at the 4 chord. So let me take that slowly and show you how that goes. So you're basically sliding up to your 5th fret with the first finger holding down the B and the E string, just like right there, and then you hammer on is the same move you can visualize that I did up here. Hammer on onto the 7th fret of the B string. Okay, and the next move, same exact pattern, that D shape, but in this case we're in an E chord. So, but we come up to the 6th fret on the G string. So we're going from the 4th to the 6th on the G string, from the first finger to the 3rd finger. Okay, a little bit slower. And then back to. So you got that G string working, right? 2nd to 4th. And then the D string, 2nd to 4th. So we're doing that same, So we're in the 4 chord of the progression, and this works in kind of a blues way. So if you're putting those two together, it sounds like this. Now we're going to go to the 5 chord because it wants to resolve, right? We want to go to the 5 chord there. It didn't have to be, but in this case we're going to go to a B. Now here you could repeat that same pattern. I'm going to show you how it goes. You can hit a straight B like this, or here. I would probably do it down here to keep the continuity going. And then you, okay, same lick, but on the 9th fret. Sorry, let's see, 7th fret. Then on the 5th fret, and then back to your E. And if you want to get really Hendrix-y, do a Wind Cries Mary lick, and that's just going from a D to an E flat to an E, and I'm doing it with this shape. So just understand, when you do this, you can also do this. That's what he does. And that's just hammering on using the A string and just hammering on from the 7th to the 9th, the 8th to the 10th, and then the 9th to the 11th. But you can still let that E ring out, okay? So that's my little Hendrix lesson, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to play it out for you right now. I'm going to play the E lick, I'm going to play the A lick, and I'm going to do the turnaround, the B, and then to the A, the 5 to the 4, and back to the E. And hopefully you can feel how this rhythmically is kind of like it feels like a little song kind of. I find for myself, I think song for me, a great song is for me is a effective way to learn this kind of stuff. That's why I always listen to, great like Hendrix records and Zepp and all that stuff. So here we go. Here's the whole thing. So there's my acoustic version of some kind of slinky Jimi Hendrix type licks. I call them chordal melodies or interior melodies, as it were, utilizing the E and the A and the B. And then just understand you can move freely around those chords. You don't have to go 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. You can go E to A to E to A, and then maybe B, A, B, whatever you want to do. But hopefully that'll give you a little sense of what you can do in that kind of rhythm and that kind of Hendrixy mood. And later on I'm going to show you how to do that in all the different keys, because what works, and I'll give you a little taste of that, what works in E and works in A and B. It can also work in G, C, or D. So hopefully what you're seeing is how everything connects and how these licks can be used in any key, E flat, any whatever. So you can move it around, almost like if you follow those chord shapes and those lick shapes, you can apply those to any key you're in, F as well. So that's a good little thing to have in your vocabulary, I think, where you can use in any kind of position, no matter if you're in a jam session or wherever you are. It works really well. I especially like it in the key of E because you get the low string ringing out, and you get the low A. So it doesn't sound. What's cool about it too is it's got a melody to it. It doesn't sound like you're playing scales. It sounds like, same things I just showed you, but I was kind of getting free with it and jumping around. So I hope you enjoyed that lesson, and more to come. We'll see you down the road. Thanks.